Good morning, good evening, and good day. Thank you so much for watching Attack Power Gaming. In today's video, we are going over the secret stats of Steel Division 2, stats that significantly change the way the game plays and how you should be playing it, and there's no way to know unless someone tells you. If you enjoy this content, please hit that like button and subscribe. It is free to you, and it really helps the channel out a lot. Let's dive right in. So, our first secret stat here, and one of the most important, is that vehicles have health. I know this seems ridiculous to say, but they actually have a numerical health value that determines how survivable the vehicle is. And that's where we get all these damage values and why they matter. The majority of tanks, so medium, heavy, and even at this point, many of the light tanks, have exactly 10 health. Okay, so any of these tanks here I might click on, the Stalin, the Char, the Churchill, the Cromwell, the Panzer, the KV-1, the King Tiger, it doesn't matter. All of these tanks have 10 health. This is the magic number for most tanks. That means you need to do 10 damage to actually kill them, and you'll notice that the majority of tank guns, and the majority of guns in general, in Steel Division 2 deal 8 damage for the most part. Now, why 8 damage? Why is this number so special? Because light vehicles, such as some light tanks and such, have only 8 health or less. So this armor car probably only has about 5. I don't know the exact numbers of every single vehicle in the game, but each vehicle has its own numerical value of their health, and that's how much damage you need to deal in order to actually destroy the vehicle. Infantry transports have like 2. Okay, and then it goes up from there. So that's why all these different damages actually matter. So when you have an AT gun that does 4 damage, that's actually quite bad because it takes 3 hits to deal the 10 damage needed, and I mean 3 penetrations, to deal the 10 damage needed to actually kill that vehicle. Now, is there any way to know what your vehicle's health is in-game? Not without zooming in. When you zoom into the unit, you will be able to visually see the damage that has been done to that unit, and you can guesstimate how much damage has been done, but there is no way to know exactly how much damage is. Generally speaking, most tanks can take 2 hits. For the most part, most things can take 2 hits, unless they're being shot at by very small caliber weapons that don't deal very much damage. But for the most part, you generally get about 2 hits. So that's a really important thing to know, that there are health bars in the game, and also HE damage does lower health. So like when you drop artillery or, you know, HE damage on a tank, it is taking damage. It's just not the significant immediate damage that AP causes, you know, that penetrates the armor. But, you know, if you bomb something or artillery it or you know, whatever it enough, it will die. The health will go down and the tank will die at some point from that HE damage. So that's really important to know, a stat you can't find anywhere but is just a pivotal part of the game. So our next secret stat is something that applies to mostly infantry. The main use of this is infantry, but it also counts for support weapons and basically anything that's not a tank for the most part. And that stat is entrenchment. Essentially, when units are not moving, so when they are standing still, they get a defense bonus, basically, where they will not take as much damage, as much suppression as they would if they were moving. And this is what makes things like Molotovs strong, because when they throw the Molotov, or flamethrowers, when they, you know, do the fire thing, okay, the infantry are forced to move out of the fire, and now they've lost their entrenchment bonus. They've lost that defense bonus of standing still. So whenever an infantry unit or a sport weapon or something like that is on the move, it actually takes far more damage than when it is standing still, which is really important to know, and why it's really dangerous to use just like the normal move order, because then your troops are taking extra damage as they simply just walk by enemies. Now, on the flip side of this, another secret stat is the fallback mechanic. So when you press R for retreat, right, or F, sorry, F for fallback, no, yeah, R for retreat, what am I talking about? R for retreat, you actually get a defense bonus while you're falling back. So things like bombs and artillery and stuff will actually do reduce damage to your infantry when they are in the fallback posture. So that's really important, and that's why you'll see pros and higher level players fall back their infantry very quickly when they get suppressed, because they don't want them to continue to take that damage, and you actually get a defense bonus. So when you see a plane coming in, if your troops are suppressed at all, hit that fallback button and the bombs will actually do less damage. Really important, and it's a really necessary skill to learn in order to keep your units alive and actually reduce the amount of damage that your units take over the long run. Our next one also has to do with veterancy. So when your troops have veterancy, they get some secret bonuses that you can't see when you're in the actual, like, you know, stat page. And one of those is Suppression Resistance. So essentially what that means is that your troops will take less suppression from fire than they would normally. And that applies to basically all of your troops. Okay, so they will actually take a lower amount of suppression when they have higher veterancy, which means when you're going up with a 2 veteran unit versus a 0 veteran unit, not only will your troops do more damage because they have higher rate of fire and better accuracy, they're actually going to get suppressed more slowly than those lower veterancy troops, which will inevitably allow you to win the battle more quickly in conjunction with all those other bonuses. So it's really important. That's a really key factor too to veterancy, is that reduced suppression rate. Our next secret stat has to do with veterancy. And the first thing I'm going to talk about with veterancy in the secret stat, and we talked about this in our veterancy video, but I'm just going to go over it here as well. The secret stat that you get is suppression resistance. So when we see here, when I put veterancy on my troops, I get a bonus to accuracy and rate of fire. But there are 2 secret stats that get bonused for specifically infantry, 2 of the ones for infantry and one's for everybody. And suppression resistance is essentially when your troops take less suppression while they're getting fired upon, which means that they get to stay in combat longer and, you know, pump out their own damage, which is actually almost more useful than your accuracy and rate of fire. And of course, accuracy and rate of fire are super useful. They kill things faster, and you will suppress the enemy faster because of that. But the truth is, the fact that your troops get to stay in the fight longer is a huge deal and will keep your guys alive much longer. So suppression resistance is a huge factor when getting veterancy because it keeps your guys in the fight for a lot longer. Our second secret veterancy bonus is for infantry specifically is speed. Your infantry will actually move more quickly at higher veterancies than they do at lower veterancies. And it's not a massive difference. It's not like they're going to sprint across the map, but they do actually physically move a little bit faster at higher levels of veterancy. And there's no way to know this because infantry don't have a speed. So there's no way to know that that happens. And again, it's not a huge difference, and it's definitely not the reason that you should be veteraning your troops, but know that they do make a little bit more headway with that higher veterancy. Our next secret stat also has to do with veterancy, but it has to do with the recon tab. So when you upgrade the veterancy on your recon units, there is another thing that gets bonus other than the accuracy, rate of fire, suppression resistance, and for infantry movement speed. The other bonus is optics. So the optics actually do get a bonus when you have higher veterancy. And there's no way to see it. It doesn't go up any higher than very high, but they still get more modifiers that allow them to see even better at higher veterancies. So giving veterancy to your infantry can matter, to your recon, can matter a little bit for seeing they will actually spot things faster and further away at higher levels of veterancy because of that secret statistic that boosts your optics. Our next secret stat has to do with tanks, and it really affects tank combat a lot, and it's really disappointing that it's not actually shown in game anywhere. And this statistic is turret rotation speed. So the speed at which the turret actually turns is the statistic that determines how quickly you can get on target. So when you have a lower turret turning speed, it's going to take much longer for your tanks to line up their shot and actually start the process of taking a shot at the enemy. And this statistic is huge. And unfortunately, there's no way to know it other than your own in-game feel of how each tank plays. Certain tanks turn really fast and have really flexible rotation times, such as the Sherman would be a great example of a very fast turning speed. And on the flip side, a really slow one would be the Panzer IVs, have very slow turret rotation speeds. And even the different models of the Panzer IV, so you have like Panzer IV J, H, and G, these all have different turret rotation speeds as well. So this really affects the effectiveness of those units in combat, and especially like how in and out and maneuverable they can be is really affected more than the speed, but then their turret rotation speed. So it's really important to know that each tank is different. And that's why sometimes it will feel like tanks are getting on target way faster than yours. Even if yours is at like a higher veterancy, veterancy doesn't increase the turret rotation speed. So, when you're in those tight moments where you're both trying to get on target, you'll notice some tanks get on target much faster, and that's because their turrets rotate much more quickly. Our next secret stat isn't really a secret, it's right here on the page, but it's not actually very clearly described. So what it affects is actually kind of a secret, and that is agility on airplanes. What is agility and what does it do? Well, if I was a betting guy, I would have just assumed agility meant how well the plane can turn, how agile can it be, what cool stuff can it do. That's not actually what it's referring to. Higher agility does not actually mean that the plane turns better than another plane. color me shocked. What it actually refers to is its ability to kind of dodge attacks, essentially. And I know it seems ridiculous, but that's what it is. When your unit has a higher agility, it essentially has almost a higher defense, kind of prevents it from taking damage. The thing that is its actual health is its resilience, right? That's how many shots it can take. That's how much suppression it experiences from certain types of hits and things. But the agility, the higher it is, the more it will actually kind of dodge shots. The harder AA has to hit it. It's a weird statistic, and I functioned for years thinking it meant exactly what I described at the beginning, but I've been told very clearly that that is not what it is. It has something to do with the way it gets attacked and the way it dodges fire, and it will make it a little bit more survivable. So I would not put over amounts of stock into agility. What really matters is that resilience and the speed, and of course the loadout when it comes to planes. But that's the secret about agility, is it has nothing to do with how agile the plane is. So our final secret statistic of Steel Division 2 has to do with everyone's favorite American medium tank, the M4A1 Sherman, or any of the Sherman variants in general. This tank has a special bonus modifier that is applied to essentially no other vehicles in the game, very few. And that is what's called stabilizers. And stabilizers allow this tank to aim faster and aim more accurately while on the move, and just in general. So that's why it always feels like the Sherman is beating you to its aim time, because it is. It gets a special modifier, and it's historically accurate. The Sherman did have more advanced stabilizers than, say, the Axis and German armor and such, that allowed the tank to more successfully aim its gun more quickly and all that good stuff. And coupled with its already higher turret rotation speed, which again you couldn't know without someone telling you, the Sherman is a much better close-range brawler than most other tanks because it can turn and react so quickly to new threats, which makes the Sherman so deadly, which makes the Sherman so cost efficient, is that bonus stabilizer, and then on top of that, the faster rotation speed and all those, and of course it's 3 machine guns. So that is a secret stat specifically to the Sherman, that it gets to enjoy this extra power that it has in terms of aiming on the move and just in general turning its gun and aiming at other units in game. So these are some of the secret stats of Steel Division 2 that will highly affect your gameplay, and you should try to learn if you really want to reach top levels of play. If you enjoyed this content, please hit that like button and subscribe for more Steel Division 2 content. Have a fantastic day.